My name is Emily Carter. I'm the eldest of three sisters born and raised in a quiet suburb outside of Portland, Oregon. Being the firstborn meant I wore many hats. Growing up, caretaker mediator, the one who stayed up late, comforting a sick sibling or making dinner when our mom worked late shifts. I wasn't asked to be responsible, it just happened. My younger sisters, in contrast, had distinct roles from the beginning. Melissa, the middle child, had a magnetic personality. She was the one dancing in the living room, putting on impromptu shows, with a hairbrush mic in hand, soaking in the attention like sunlight. The youngest, Natalie, was the family's darling. Her mistakes were forgiven with chuckles, and her whims often dictated family plans. While I quietly cleaned up messes, both literal and emotional, Melissa stole the spotlight and Natalie lived in a bubble of soft rules and warm indulgence. I never outwardly resented it. That's just how things were. I found purpose in being the strong one, the one everyone could lean on. When I became a mother myself, I thought things might shift, that maybe finally my role would evolve beyond responsibility. But old patterns have a way of holding on tight. I adopted my daughter Ava when she was just 3 years old. She had the most haunting gray eyes I had ever seen, full of quiet curiosity and wary caution. She didn't speak much at first, just clutched her plush rabbit and watched the world carefully. I remember the first time she called me Mom. It was after I dropped her off at preschool, and she waved through the window with a shy smile. I cried for 10 minutes in the parking lot. From that moment, I made a silent vow Ava would never feel like an outsider again. Not in my home, not in my family. I'd ensure that she knew she belonged always. But promises like that are hard to keep when the people you love don't see your child the same way you do. Ava officially became my daughter on a drizzly Tuesday in March. The courthouse in Eugene was quiet that morning, and the judge smiled as he signed the final document. I held Ava's small hand tightly and told her, "We're a team now. Forever." She blinked slowly, then nodded as if sealing the deal in her own quiet way. From the outside, it seemed like a joyful new chapter. But as the months passed, I began to see the cracks in how my family treated her, not with hostility, but with indifference coated in politeness. When my sister Melissa got engaged the following spring, it was a full production. She announced it over brunch with a dramatic wave of her diamond-ringed hand. There were Instagram stories, engagement shoots in Napa Valley, and daily countdowns in our family group chat. I congratulated her, of course. Ava spent hours making a card out of glittery paper and old magazine cutouts, carefully gluing little hearts, and drawing the bride in a gown. Melissa smiled when I handed it to her but left it behind in the back seat of her SUV. I found it 2 weeks later, crumpled and damp under a half-finished iced coffee. I didn't tell Ava. Still, she remained excited about the wedding. She browsed dresses online, asking if blush pink or soft lavender would look better with her curls. She wondered if Melissa would let her hand out the programs or maybe help collect cards. She was nervous but hopeful that she would be seen. Then the invitation came. It was thick and cream-colored with a gold foil seal. Ava was sitting at the dining table, sketching with her headphones on as I read it at the counter. I skimmed the location, the RSVP, deadline, the dress code. Then I saw the bolded line, adults only. Guests must be 18 or older, no exceptions. I read it twice to be sure I understood. Ava noticed my silence. She looked up and said softly, "So I'm not invited." I tried to explain it's just the age rule, but she cut me off. Is it because I'm not really family? She wasn't angry, she didn't raise her voice. She asked it as if it were something she'd been thinking about for a long time. And in that moment, my heart sank because I couldn't promise her it wasn't. I didn't reply to Melissa's invitation right away. I just stared at it for a long time, weighing what it meant not just for me, but for Ava. There were so many times in our family when she'd been overlooked, glossed over, treated like a guest in her own story. But this was the clearest message yet. You don't belong. That night after she went to bed, I sat down at my laptop and selected Will Not Attend. No explanation, no note, just a quiet refusal. The next morning, I got a message from Melissa. Hey Em, saw your RSVP. Everything okay? 10 minutes later, if this is about the age policy, I really hope you understand. We're trying to keep it consistent. No exceptions for anyone. Nothing personal, right? Except it was personal. Ava wasn't just some teenager in the extended family. She was Melissa's niece. 17 years old, not 7. A young woman who had spent hours preparing for a wedding she was never meant to be part of. I didn't answer. Then Natalie chimed in with a text. Wait, you're not coming. What's going on? I didn't answer that either. It didn't take long for our mom to call. She rarely calls without a reason, so I braced myself as I picked up. Emily, she said I heard you're not going to the wedding. Is this really about the age thing? I said Ava isn't invited. I'm not going without her. She's nearly 18. There was a pause, then she said, Come on, it's not like she's a kid. She's family. Don't punish your sister over one night. But that's what they didn't get. It wasn't about one night. It was about every unspoken message that came before it. After I hung up, the family group chat started buzzing. First Natalie typing in all caps, seriously. All this drama over one rule. Then our mom again typing a long paragraph about forgiveness and family unity, about how we all make sacrifices. I didn't say a word. Ava deleted the dress photos from her phone that night. She didn't cry. She just quietly tucked them away the way she always did when something hurt more than she was willing to admit. And that broke me more than anything else. Not the exclusion, not the guilt-tripping texts, but how unsurprised she was. She had learned something I spent too long trying not to see, that in our family love had conditions. That belonging was something you had to earn. And for her, that was a losing game. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. That after my RSVP, the noise would die down, but it didn't. Instead, the texts kept coming, sideways comments from Natalie, vague guilt from my mom, emojis of confusion followed by passive-aggressive messages about how hard middle children have it and not making a scene. Ava stopped bringing up the wedding. She didn't ask about the dress anymore. She didn't say anything at all. But I noticed she wasn't humming when she painted. Her shoulders slouched more than usual. Her silence was louder than any protest. By the time Christmas rolled around, I'd already made my decision. There was no speech, no big confrontation. I just didn't invite them. No group chat, no holiday meal plan, no baked ham or cinnamon rolls or folding chairs pulled from the garage. Melissa and Natalie didn't notice at first, but by mid-December the family thread started stirring. Hey Em, what time should we come by Christmas Eve? Should I bring the usual sweet potato casseroles? Let me know what Ava would like for dessert. I didn't reply. I watched the messages roll in like background static. Ava didn't ask either. She knew. She felt the shift even if I didn't spell it out. Ethan, my husband, quietly asked one evening, "Do we need the extra chairs this year?" I shook my head. Not this time. We spent Christmas just the three of us, no fuss. Ava baked sugar cookies in shapes that didn't quite hold together stars with soft corners trees with crooked tops. Ethan made vegetable lasagna, and I curled up with a novel I'd been meaning to finish for months. It was quiet, and at first the silence felt foreign, like we were forgetting something. But then I realized what was missing wasn't family. It was noise, judgments, the careful dance around topics, the pointed comments dressed as jokes, the way Ava used to shrink slightly when she entered a room filled with relatives who never really saw her. This year, she didn't have to do that. She wore pajamas all day with flour on her cheek and frosting on her sleeve. She laughed, really laughed at Ethan's terrible puns and my failed attempt at a snowflake cookie. For once, it didn't feel like we were performing. And when the group chat grew quiet, I didn't miss it. I didn't think about the wedding, the seating chart, the cake. I thought about my daughter and how for the first time in a long while she looked like she belonged. Because she did. By mid-December, their confusion turned into concern. Rachel, ever the coordinator, messaged again. "Emily, just confirming Christmas Eve dinner is still on at your place." Melissa followed up. "Of course, there'll be 5 of us again. Let me know if Ava has any requests for dessert, if she's even coming this time." That message nearly broke my resolve. If she's even coming this time. As if Ava's absence from their perfect wedding was her fault. As if being excluded were a choice she made. I didn't answer. Instead, I wrapped gifts in the den, played Ella Fitzgerald on the record player, and let the group chat pile up with unanswered texts. For the first time in years, I didn't scrub the baseboards. I didn't clean for company that would critique me anyway. I didn't buy a roast that no one thanked me for. I didn't retrieve the folding chairs from the basement or extend the dining table. I simply did nothing. And that silence apparently was deafening. The calls began. First my mom. I let it ring. Then Rachel. Then Melissa. Finally, my dad left a voicemail. "Emily, what's going on? Your mother's upset. It's not too late to do the right thing." But what exactly was the right thing? Hosting people who actively excluded my daughter. Making dinner for people who couldn't bring themselves to acknowledge her worth. That wasn't kindness, that was submission. So we didn't host anyone. On Christmas Eve, Ethan and I stayed in flannel pajamas all day. Ava played her favorite playlist while painting a winter scene on a stretched canvas in the sunroom. Ethan made tomato basil lasagna, and I read a new novel from cover to cover. We opened gifts early. We drank hot cocoa with marshmallows and laughed genuine, easy laughter that hadn't echoed through our walls in years. No one tiptoed around insults. No one translated passive-aggressive barbs. No one braced themselves for polite cruelty hidden in family tradition. Just us. And then the tone of the group messages shifted. December 26th, Melissa posted, "I just think it's really sad. We've tried to welcome Ava, but Emily makes it impossible to get close." Rachel added, "If you cut off family every time you disagree, you'll end up alone." Then my dad, "The way you're handling this is cruel. I'm sorry, but it is." My mom sent a photo of their tree captioned, "It wasn't the same without you." Ava would have loved her gifts. But those weren't gifts. They were wrapped apologies without ownership. Bows tied around silence and denial. They wanted me to come back, pretend it never happened, smile for the camera, fold napkins and ignore insults. But I was done pretending. After Christmas, the messages kept coming. A card arrived with no return address, but I knew the handwriting was my mother's. Inside, she had written, "I hope you'll think about the example you're setting. Ava will learn how easily you shut people out." I read it twice, and then I realized, yes, that was the example I wanted Ava to see. Not that love was disposable, but that real love doesn't ask you to be smaller, quieter, or invisible to be accepted. Real love doesn't come with conditions or expiration dates. Ava never asked about the messages. She never mentioned the silence. But I could feel the questions hovering in her chest. She observed quietly, just as she always had, still trying to understand which parts of the world were safe. One evening, while curled on the couch with a blanket over her knees and a sketchbook in her lap, she paused mid-drawing. "If I wasn't adopted," she asked, "do you think they'd like me more?" The question crushed something in me. I sat down beside her and said softly, "Sweetheart, they might pretend better, but how they treat people who don't fit their mold was never about you." She looked at me with those same solemn gray eyes she had the day I met her. "I don't think I want them to like me anymore," she said. And that was the moment I stopped waiting for any apology. A few days later, my father called again. I let it go to voicemail. Then came a text. "Your mother can't sleep. She feels like she's lost you. We know we messed up, but cutting everyone off, that's not who you are." I stared at that sentence for a long time. That's not who you are. I used to wonder. I used to question if I was being too cold, too emotional, too protective. But now I was sure, this is who I am. I am someone who knows what I will and won't tolerate. Someone who won't make her daughter sit through family dinners, where she's treated like an outsider for the sake of tradition. Someone who understands that maintaining false peace at the cost of a child's self-worth is not noble. It's cowardice with a smile. And the final straw came in the form of a voice memo from Melissa. It started with feigned calmness, but every sentence came with a subtle blade. "It's just sad, Emily. You act like you love Ava so much, but it's like you're using her as an excuse. Anytime someone doesn't treat her like royalty, you cut them out. That's not healthy, that's obsession." I didn't finish it. I deleted it, then I blocked her number. Because if standing firm, loving Ava unapologetically and drawing boundaries is called obsession in their eyes, so be it. New Year's Eve passed quietly in our home. Ava fell asleep on the couch with half a sugar cookie in her hand. Ethan and I toasted with warm chamomile tea and watched fireworks on mute, the flickers of color reflected in our living room windows. He glanced over and asked, "Do you miss them?" I paused, considering. "No," I said honestly, "I miss the idea of them, but that version of them never really existed." He nodded and gently reached for my hand. We didn't need more words. I knew the silence wouldn't last forever. People like them don't give up control so easily. And sure enough, they kept trying. The occasional voicemail, a birthday card for Ava signed from all of us like that meant anything. But I was prepared for it. Then one Thursday afternoon in late January, the doorbell rang. I had just come home from work. My coat was still buttoned and I hadn't even put down my purse. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door and there they were, my parents. Standing on the porch like it was still 2009 and we were all pretending nothing ever happened. My mom was holding a Tupperware container, probably oatmeal cookies, her specialty. I knew that smell before she even opened it. "Emily," she said with that careful little smile, "we thought we'd stop by." I just stared. The container in her hands looked like bait. My dad shifted beside her. "Can we come in just for a minute?" "No," I said simply. They blinked startled, but I didn't flinch. "We just want to talk," my mom said, still smiling. Things got heated. but we're still your family." She held out the cookies like a peace offering. I didn't move. The smile faltered, her voice tightened. "You don't have to be like this," she said. "We know raising a teenager is hard, but pushing everyone away—" My dad added, "We gave you space, but now what, you'll throw your real family away for a girl who's leaving soon anyway?" My stomach clenched. "She's 17, my mom said softly. "She'll be off to college soon. Then what? You'll be alone. You'll regret this." And then, like she'd been waiting the whole time to say it, she finally did. "I'm sorry, Emily, but she's not blood. She's not really one of us." She said it so gently, like she expected me to thank her for her honesty. Instead, I stepped back and said firmly, "You need to leave, now." My dad tried to protest. "No," I repeated louder. "You don't get to insult my daughter and expect me to open my door. Not anymore. You lost that right." "You're going to regret this," my mother said, her voice cracking. "When she leaves you, when she forgets you, you'll come back. And our door will still be open." I didn't respond. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it until their footsteps faded. I wasn't going to tell Ava about the confrontation. I didn't want her burdened with their bitterness. But I had promised her one thing from the beginning: the truth. So the next evening, I sat beside her at the kitchen table while she sketched. I told her what they'd said. About her leaving, about not being blood, about me supposedly crawling back to them once she was gone. She didn't cry, but I saw the way her fingers tensed on the pencil, the way her jaw locked ever so slightly. She was holding something in, and I hated that she had to. "They really think I'll leave you," she said. "No," I replied. "They hope you will, because then they believe I'll need them again." She nodded slowly. "Well, they don't get to hope things about me." I thought that would be the end of it, but I should have known better. A week later, I got a message from my cousin Brianna. She forwarded me an email Rachel had sent to the extended family. It was long, convoluted, full of veiled accusations and carefully chosen phrases. The core of it: that Ava had manipulated her way into our lives, that I had cut off the people who truly cared because I was obsessed with protecting someone who didn't even belong to us. She called Ava ungrateful, distant, difficult, said I was isolating myself because of a fantasy I'd created around a child who didn't love me back. It was vile, and worse, it worked. People started reaching out. Aunt Jo texted asking if I was okay. Uncle Glenn called Ethan to ask if I was going through something. Even Chloe, my second cousin, left a comment on one of Ava's art posts. "You're very lucky. Don't forget who gave you a home." Ava saw it. I saw her see it. That was it. I didn't send a reply. I compiled a dossier. Screenshots, emails, photos, every ignored invitation, every exclusion, every barely veiled jab. I wrote a letter, plain fact-based, calm. I sent it only once to the whole extended family with the subject line, "For those who want the full story." No demands, no sides, just the truth. Some replied with apologies. Some never said a word. Some quietly unfriended Rachel. Others defended her. But none of that mattered. Because I didn't do it for them. I did it for Ava. So that one day she'd never wonder if it had all been in her head. So she'd never again ask me, "Do you think they'd love me more if I was related by blood?" After that, I blocked anyone who told me I was overreacting. Anyone who said maybe if you just talked to them again. I wasn't interested in peace built on her silence. We didn't hear from them again, not directly, but I know we're still the story they tell when someone asks why we don't show up to reunions anymore. Let them talk. They lost the right to know her. Time moved forward as it always does. Ava started her first semester at the University of Vermont in the Fine Arts program. She's thriving top of her class, pouring her soul into her work. She still calls me every night, not because she has to, but because she wants to. She sends pictures of her latest sketches, sometimes asking for feedback, sometimes just to say goodnight. When I dropped her off at her dorm, she hugged me for a full minute and whispered, "I'm not going anywhere." I knew what she meant, not physically, emotionally. She had rooted herself in a truth we'd both fought to protect. A truth no one could shake loose anymore. People say you can't choose your family. I did. I chose Ava. Over blood, over guilt, over every uncomfortable dinner and every pointed silence. And if they're still out there waiting, thinking I'll come crawling back someday, that I'll one day regret this decision, let them wait. Let them hold their breath. Sometimes I still remember that day on the porch. My mother's outstretched arms offering cookies like they were a magic spell that could erase years of pain. The way she tried to make sugar sweeter than sincerity. And some nights when the house is quiet and the lights are low, I ask myself, did I overreact? Was I too harsh? Should I have tried harder? But then I remember the way Ava looked at me when I told her, they don't get to treat you like that. I remember the calm in her eyes, the strength in her voice when she said, I don't want them to like me anymore. I remember how tightly she hugged me at her college drop-off, not just like a daughter saying goodbye, but like a woman telling the world, this is the person who never let go of me. And I remember the promise I made to her long ago, one that no one made to me growing up, that I would choose her every time. So when the invitations stop coming, when the group chats continue without us, when the family tree redraws itself to crop us out, I don't flinch. We are not missing anything.